Welcome into another episode of the Post-Game Press Conference. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, even the Post-Game Media website, where you'll find every piece of sports content myself and my co-host do. I'm Ryan Pigeau alongside John Lodge, as usual, and this program is about breaking down the recent advancements in the sports world. Man, this time on the presser, there's a lot to talk about, but locally, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. Our Blue Jays rebound from an absolute tire fire. Like the last time we talked, it was getting disgusting. They're getting beat around by the Yankees, and they end up clinching their first playoff spot in 4 years on Thursday night. So I know you're excited to talk a little bit about that. The Stanley Cup Finals in full theatric mode already, because earlier in the week, Stamkos puts his mark on the series, albeit small. The Bolts, they get him back for, 3 minutes. He scores a goal. Then all of a sudden they're up 2-1, and now it's 3-1 with a huge OT win last night. The Cup's in the building. They get handed out tonight, John. Game 5 is tonight at 8 p.m. So two exciting things to get into. I guess that one's not local, but obviously it's the big news around here. We want to talk a little bit about the Denver Nuggets too, right? Because once again they find themselves down 3-1. It's amazing how in round 1, round 2, and now yet again in round 3, they find themselves looking elimination in the mirror. But I joked with you last night, they almost have them right where they want them. So I'll get your take on that, and then finally some NFL stuff to get us out of here, because tomorrow is Sunday, and we all know what that means in the NFL world. If you're streaming live, feel free to get our questions or comments about the show over to us on our Twitter accounts. So I'm EH, the number 4 effort. That's A4 effort. And then John over there is at John Lodge Music. How are you doing today, buddy? How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. The weather's not too horrible. I was outside doing some research for the show earlier.
Nice.
And every night, although it's been late nights because the NBA always wants to put their game on either at 8:30 or 9 p.m., depending on who's playing. So it's always been a late night recently watching sports, but it's been fun. It's been fun, yeah. So it's been a lot better than the recent past that a lot of us have experienced. This feels a little bit of normality coming back to me, even though we're now facing maybe a second wave of this crazy virus. Yeah, it feels like it's a little bit of normality for me.
I was going to get into that, but you beat me to it. That's the thing. We're starting to get into some kind of scary times again. All this stuff's closing down, or at least shortening its hours, and we're starting to face a little bit of that second wave everybody called for. So I'm glad to say that, again, we're at the precipice of the Stanley Cup playoffs here. We've hit the Cup final without any issues, believe it or not. They did 2 months in the bubble. Those guys toughed it out, but they're here. And like I said earlier, it could all be done tonight. The Stanley Cup could get handed out to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, how about that, by the way? How about a back-to-back in the Stanley Cup final? For one, I do not agree about that. These guys are literally killing themselves on every single play, every single shift, every single second they're out there. They're pushing their bodies out to the max in a game that is maybe one of the most physical games that humans play, and then we're going to go and say, yeah, for the best or for the greatest trophy of all, and with the possibility of actually handing that trophy out, we're going to play back to back because we got to get this thing done. We got to get this banged out. You couldn't give them one day in between. I understand. I understand. You know what that means? That means you're going up on Sunday against the NFL and no one's going to watch. So that's what it is. Yep. It's a ratings war, and they don't care about their players, but they care about the dollar bills. That's what they're trying to make here.
That's what I was going to say. Like, in the end, it seems as though, because I agree with you on every point there. These guys have sweated out. They've worked so hard, and they're in the bubble. It's such a difficult circumstance this time around. And, again, the last thing that the networks want to do is go back to their advertisers and say, I'm so sorry that nobody watched Game 5 of the Cup Final on Sunday night. I'm so sorry that you had 0 viewers because you got all these games going on. You got the NBA. Like, we got some heat to talk about there, pun intended, because they really faltered last night. But in the end, there's so many other sports in prime time to get into that it's the NHL. I understand what you're saying, but if I'm one of these big executives, you almost have to make the call. Like, it's either 0 viewers because everybody's interested in basketball and football on Sunday, or we get this wrapped up, or we take an extra 2 days off. Now, I don't understand why we don't just kick the can down the road a little further. But that's my ignorance in not looking into the upcoming schedule for Monday, Tuesday. I don't really understand why we couldn't have moved it on. Game 5, we could have had a 2-day break. We just saw it happen in the NBA. So I'm with you there. I think it just comes down to the executives not really caring enough about their players and really having the bottom line But how can you blame them, right? This has been such a difficult circumstance, and everybody's losing money left and right. So you almost have to suck it up. And I'm sure the players have their qualms, but they're probably just gonna to suck it up and play, right? That's like, they can't argue it.
Yeah, it's the sport of suck it up and play, right? That's what it's always been with hockey players. Uh, I don't. I always view the NHL kind of as like the little brother or the little cousin of the
Oh yeah.
NBA, right? And everything the NBA does, the NHL will follow, right? So the NBA realized that they were going to get absolutely zero eyes on a Boston Celtics game playing up against football. So they let the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat sit for 3 days.
3, yeah.
3 days. And what's the difference in the NHL going, you know what, guys? You kind of killed yourselves for this series so far. It's really good, and I really want as many eyes as possible. So how about we're the only game on, and we start with puck drop 6:30 Tuesday? Because what does the NBA do? They play at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. They're not playing that early. So if you get your puck drop at 6:30, you're the only thing on next to baseball, which will be in the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
But point in case being you'll get more eyes if you were to just lay it off. But instead, Gary Bettman and the like are just, I don't know if they're bent over a barrel or if they just want to get it done and over with. But what happens here? What happens here if Dallas wins tonight, right? Dallas wins tonight, and then what? You're going to go up against Monday Night Football, and you're not going to get anybody. Right, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think I think they should have. I go rest over anything else. I guess is the point I'm trying to stress here.
Yeah, man.
These guys play one of the hardest sports out there, so why not give them a few extra days off? Especially when guys who play a much less harder sport in basketball just got that courtesy.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, the passion's there. I definitely hear it, and I just think there's really not much the NHL can do because you just reminded me. Yeah, Monday night is probably the most anticipated game of the football season so far. It's the one I'm looking forward to. Chiefs at Ravens, but a great matchup. Two teams that are 2-0 with great quarterbacks, and everyone's looking forward to that game Monday night. On top of the fact that tomorrow is all day. You've got the NFL occupying all the primetime real estate with the network TV. So it may be Gary Bettman with over a barrel, but I think in the end it's like, what can you do? You really, if you can help it, you don't want to compete with those sports in the NBA and the NFL, and even baseball coming down the stretch now. Like, some of these games are getting interesting, unless you're a Jays fan, because they either beat the crap out of a team or get beat up. It's insane. There's nothing close ever anymore. But that's kind of the way I'm wondering is, it's probably more so like NBC and all those guys who are saying, like, we cannot go back to our sponsors who pay millions of dollars in advertising for this game 5 and say there was no viewers. You know what I mean? Like, they have to suck it up and play that game back to back tonight. So I'm with you, man. My passion is there, but that's as ignorant as I am. That's as far as I can kind of understand the business behind it. But I can't. I'm speaking out of school if I go any farther on it, right? Like, we don't get it that far.
If we're being honest, and we made a pie chart of the big 4 sports, and the NHL is included, right? And we're talking about the pie chart represents the percentage of care NBC has for this said sport. You've got the NFL taking up probably 65%.
Oh yeah.
You've got the NBA taking up 20 some odd, maybe
20 to 30. Yeah.
MLB taking up whatever, and then
the remaining
there's like a sliver of 1.5 to 2% of care at NBC and in American networks for hockey, because they know that the majority of their viewership is coming from other avenues, other live sports. So yeah, this is I really think it's Gary Bettman over a barrel, in my opinion, just because he's got no other choice, right? The networks, NBC's like, you might think NBC's like, I can't go back to my sponsors and say this, but I think NBC's like, listen, man, I got this and this, take it or leave it.
So you mentioned earlier tonight, or earlier in the show, what if Dallas wins tonight? That's the point I'm trying to make here. Do you have a good feeling about the Stars? Is that why you say that, or are you just kind of throwing that hyperbole out there? Because I have a feeling it's over tonight. Just the way that Tampa Bay has kind of roared since the moment Stamkos returned to the lineup, like 2 games ago now. They seem like they've been in the driver's seat. So my question to you is, do you feel like Dallas, similar to what the Celtics did with the Heat last night, do they inch themselves back into the series a little further?
I think that Dallas isn't going out easy in this one, and I think that Tampa Bay needed a lot to go right in their favor for that win, and it was a win in overtime.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. And when you look at the I don't know if it was the overtime goal or if it was a tying goal, but there was one where Hudobin makes a play. And actually, can I make a sidebar here before I get into it? I heard a analogy how Andre Vasilevsky plays positional, plays analytical goaltender, and Anton Hudobin makes plays. And sometimes when you make a play, you're out of position for the next play, a la Tim
Oh
Thomas,
yeah.
a la Dominic Hasek, those type of goaltenders, right? Hasek was one of the best at scrambling and getting back into position, but
The guys that
Anton,
are known as battlers, right? Sorry
yeah,
to stop you. Yeah,
yeah,
the
that's
battlers.
exactly it. So, and I can't remember. I didn't watch. I'm going to be honest. You watch more hockey. I watched more basketball last night.
Yeah.
Uh, but I saw a replay. I don't know if it was the tying goal or the winning goal, but it was a shot, and it changed direction. Hadobin was all the way over, and it was an empty net. It was an empty net goal, and I mean, in that situation, you have to be like, well, that's where the goaltending lacks, right? And I guess what I'm getting at here is that that's the big difference in this series between Tampa and Dallas. I don't think it's the scoring. I think it's the fact that in that moment, in that second, you can always trust Vasilevsky to be in position, whereas with Hadobin, you kind of don't know because he may have just tried to make a play previously.
Yeah, I'm with you. Even Anthony Stewart said at some point, it might have been the second, could have been the second intermission or the intermission going into overtime, where they were saying like this guy's got to stay in his net. If Rick Bowness isn't on the bench screaming at him to stay in his net, I don't know what's going on there, because again, he comes out and he kind of challenges a play, or he overreacts, as we'd say, right, to a play where on the other end of the ice, you got a goaltender basically standing there blocking, waiting for it to hit him, right? And Hudobin's smaller, so he can't do that as well. But what he's good at, right, is reading, reacting, and then sometimes my point is overreacting. So here he goes. He's kind of the goat here on a couple of goals, and then heading into the overtime, Anthony Stewart says if there's going to be one guy who I blame it on, like if there's a goal scored, it's going to be Tampa Bay, because this guy comes out of his net to play the puck. So I'm going to combine that with a stat. I can't remember the exact number, but since game 2 of this series, Hudobin, who's been an awesome story. Like, I love the guy. Everyone loves the guy. We keep propping him up and reminding ourselves, oh yeah, here's what he's done. He's a journeyman. He's had around an 8-something save percentage since that second game of this series. So you talk about having a horse or a guy like many of those teams do, even the team we cheer for, and we keep arguing, is he here to stay? Is he here to go? Or is he on his way out? Those guys don't grow on trees. And Hudobin is, again, he's got his team on his back, and he doesn't really belong here. Again, we're not trying to discredit him, but the starting goalie, Ben Bishop, is out. So I'm curious to see what happens tonight. You know that Bishop isn't coming back in this series, much like I don't think Stamkos is coming back in. But if Hudobin doesn't get back to that 915, 920 save percentage for this game, and the remaining games in the series, they're toast, right? Like, I'm just grabbing low-hanging fruit. Hudobin is their most important player tonight and for the remainder of the series. Say it again, Ryan. Tonight and for the remainder of the series.
I think, well, you're not incorrect, but I think what's more important than Hudobin is the defense in front of him, right? The
Yeah.
reason why he's looked so good throughout these playoffs is because he's got outstanding defense. He's got guys taking the puck out of the crease, moving it, and getting them out of danger situations, right? Unfortunately, what they're going up against right now is the most dangerous offense they've faced all playoffs, Vegas included. The Tampa Bay is on another level with their offense. Vegas was kind of burnt out. We've said it before, after the Vancouver series, after Demko, he kind of burnt that entire group of scorers out, right? So this Tampa Bay group is something else, and they're having a hard time dealing with that defensively. Now losing, I believe they don't have Hints in as well right now, so losing a key defenseman, that's a big deal for for Dallas. I agree with you that Khudobin has to stay in his net. He's got to stay aware. He's got to be active, but not overactive. But that defense needs to ship up, because if not, then they're done. I do believe Dallas has a shot tonight, but those are the two keys to my game right now. Is Khudobin needs to be aware but not over aware, as you said, not overactive, and the Dallas defense needs to return to its form from game one and return to the form that it had versus the Vegas Golden Knights, because that's the defense that'll allow them to shut down the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. Again, they're not completely out of it, but they need a few guys to continue to play above the, like you say, the water level,
They had
raise that water level.
7 shots, I believe, through 2 periods, or a period, and I think it was 11 shots through 2 periods full.
Yeah, it's tough. You can't get away with that.
You can't do that. Yeah.
No. That's what I'm trying to say is your classic line, raise the water level. That's what Khudobin has done for, 3 straight series now? So for Dallas to have a shot, they're continuing to rely on a guy who you've never expected to do what he's doing, right? He's got to keep raising that water level, whereas over on the other side, despite that injury to Stamkos and a little bit of wear and tear on point that's been obvious and that's kept him out of games, I really think Tampa Bay, again, has the advantage. And again, that's low-hanging fruit. Like, we're sitting here going, the fact that Dallas got this far has been a surprise in the last 2 rounds, right? A lot of us had Colorado and Vegas as favorites in those series. So, man, oh man, I'm trying not to write the obituary right now, but it does really feel like that cup that's going to be in the building tonight is going to be leaving the building in the hands of a team that's, have they not deserved it for a while? Like, I'm completely backpedaling on what I said a pod or 2 ago, where I said maybe that's the team that never wins a cup, and maybe they deserve not to win one because they win all these July 1st signings. But do you remember I also said if Stamkos gets to be a part of this, like, I'll switch, I'll change my mind. And I think that 3 minutes where he came in, scored a goddamn goal, John, scored a goddamn goal. Like, if they win this cup tonight, I'm gonna cry watching Stamkos hoist okay, are you not? Like, that's gonna be the most amazing.
No, I won't have that sort of reaction, but I
always get really emotional, man. I always get, maybe this will be different because it's not that same montage feeling you get from the whole season, and maybe it'll be more powerful because of the bubble. But man, even I think back to watching like Jordan Nolan hoist the Stanley Cup as an LA King, and I'm like, oh, buddy, like, I was getting goosebumps. Listen to my voice, right? Like, I get emotional. And who's Jordan Nolan? Some people might say this was 2012. But if Stamkos hoists that cup tonight, dude, I will be actually in tears for him. Like, I'll be so pumped.
So I love the fact that he came back in. And now, I've had core muscle surgery before, and I believe this is what he now, I didn't have anywhere close to the core muscle surgery Steven Stamkos had. So my experiences are in the minor percentage compared to what Steven Stamkos' experiences are and what he puts his body through. But speaking from my personal experience, as I say the word again, from my core muscle surgery, I was in bed for a good month before I could get up and even pivot properly. And then it was a lot of pushing every day until you felt like you had your normal range of motion. And see, this is what I think happened. Steven Stamkos, he felt like he had his normal range of motion, and he felt good, and he felt really good, and he went into the game and everything was good. But then he went 2 minutes in, and he realized, you know what? I'm not quite there yet. Now, he scored a goal and he had a massive impact, but he realized, I'm not quite there yet, and they had to pull him from it. He's not completely, he might even play tonight. He might, and if Dallas somehow wins, he might play game 6, right? So no, game 6. Anyway, game 6.
Yeah, if Dallas wins tonight, is game 5. So I see what you're saying.
Okay.
He might play game 6 as well.
Yeah. So but the point is he didn't re-injure himself there. He just felt, I'm not ready.
You think so?
Right? Yeah, he was still on the bench for the entire final 2 periods. He was
with a C on his jersey, right?
Yeah,
if he had a broken leg, okay, maybe that's different because he's had one.
If it was serious,
off the ice.
This man had serious surgery. If it was seriously injured, he would have been gone to the hospital. to be
here's what I
looked at
think.
by a doctor. So I personally, just to finish my thought, I
Yeah,
personally think that Steven Stamkos could be back in this series. I love the fact that he had his Stanley Cup moment, and the fact that he'll be able to raise the Stanley Cup first. But I think the biggest thing for me that'll make a smile on my face, and you brought up Jordan Nolan, Pat Maroon, to be back to back.
yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Here's what I think about Stamkos in the end, man. It's one of those moments where I believe you could be right, but I also wonder if he was never good to go. If he kind of knew that there's not going to be much here. And I'm not saying he knew he was going to score a goal. That's insane. But you know those moments in life where you just kind of like you feel it and you feel good. And I think he was like, I'm not by any means ready to play, as we've seen. Like he would have played in four straight series. If he was ready to go, he would have played. It's not like another 2 weeks of rehab have changed anything, right? Like this guy is hurting. So in my mind, I feel like Jeff O'Neill kind of hit it right where it was maybe his moment to get in there, and maybe I have a little bit of faith or bias in that because it's what's given me that switch or that emotional push where I was almost hoping for this, right? And it's like if Stamkos in any way is kind of thinking the same as some of us, where it's like, God, if only I could just get a piece of this action, then I won't feel as if I didn't like earn this one, right? Like he's missed out on so goddamn much. It's not even fair. Steve Dangle had a great tweet. It like listed like 10 different things or 10 different kind of
Yeah,
factors
I
where
saw the tweet. Yeah,
you
yeah,
saw it, right?
yeah.
And it's insane. So if those kind of things combined, I look at it and I'm like, man, oh man, I bet you he was not even 50%. And he's like, I'm going out there, I'm doing anything, I'm putting my name on the game sheet. And then to link it back to what you're saying, if there's a chance that I'm wrong there, and if he really is kind of touch and go, buddy, if he was saving himself for another game, it's a chance to win a cup tonight. Like he literally could play. I'm not trying to be a romantic about this, but again, like if the fact that he kind of surprised us earlier in the week, he could surprise us all maybe in game 5 or game 6, kind of heading on what you said. Again, if I'm wrong, if he's not as hurt as I think, he might just show up and surprise us because who wouldn't, right? Like this is the moment you dream for. You have a 3-1 series lead. Your team is so good without you that if you show up and play, you could be on the ice and contribute like you did earlier in the series, like in a game that you've waited for so. Like look at all the things he's missed out on. Like to me, that really is the storybook ending for me. If he doesn't. He needs to play in these next 2 games for it to be the most amazing story, but already it's a great ending, right? Like that's what I'm thinking.
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, he has made his impact on the Stanley Cup Finals, and it was ruined by a late goal by Dallas. It would have been the game-winning
Yeah,
goal,
what
and I totally agree with Elliot Friedman and everybody else saying "poo-poo on you, Dallas, for ruining all the beautiful headlines that were being written about Steven Stamkos and his 2-minute and 47-second impact on the Stanley Cup Finals." But it's more than that. It's his impact on the team. He as the captain, right? He's a huge he's a huge person that moves the needle on that team, right? So I think if he ends up getting back on the ice, it just does more and more for them. A stat that might surprise you: 22 games since bottom 6 have scored for Tampa. 22.
Yeah, that was nuts, man. I saw some of that. They were pulling up the kind of the chart on which players have scored recently, and yeah, 22. There was a few of them in there, but even on top of that, I think Killorn with his goal last night to make it 4-4. I think he broke like a 17 game or 15 game goal streak as well, or a goalless streak. So even without that depth scoring, they're getting it done. Another factor in why I feel like they just have that natural advantage. It's all Tampa Bay by osmosis wins in 5 or 6. Like there's no way this goes to 7.
Well, if they get some of that depth scoring tonight, then you can fully expect them to win. If they get some bottom 6 scoring tonight somehow, then that's just going to push over the edge because, like you said, the top guys are going to score. So if these bottom 6 guys start connecting, then it's going to be overwhelming, and there's nothing Dallas is going to be able to do.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to get into some of the debates about the awards, but I think there's been enough of that. Like in the end, if anybody isn't caught up, we know Makar wins the Calder. Hughes is the only other option, and I feel like the debate's gone on and on and on. You can literally, that could be a separate podcast, right? That's why I'm going to avoid getting into it tonight. And the same with the Draisaitl over McKinnon for the Hart, Ted Lindsay. People are arguing that McDavid is literally in the league, so how can this be possible? I get it, right? And I'm sure you get it too, but is it worth our time to debate all that back and forth? Like, I don't know if it really is.
That's pretentious debate. There's lots more to talk about. There's playoffs to talk about. So
Sweet.
like we
Sweet.
got better stuff to get into.
Thank God. The only one I'll say, Hellebuck winning the Vezina was the runaway, and Roman Josi winning his first Norris. I mean, good for you, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and debate because, like, dude, Twitter and every radio show, that's all they did for a week, and it's like, dude, it's the awards. Let's come on, let's move on.
With that defense, the fact that Hellebuck won the Vezina, he should have gotten 2 trophies.
I know, right?
So.
Especially with the Bufflin situation. Speaking of situations, you got San Jose Sharks naming their their head coach Bob Bugner, and then Bobby Ryan. That was some news yesterday. He's going to be bought out by the Ottawa Senators. On top of some news that Craig Anderson won't be offered a contract. That guy, for any Leaf fan, like he's been synonymous with the Ottawa Senators for the last half decade, if not a little longer, between 5 and 10 years. He's been kind of a thorn in the side because he'll come up and steal a game, especially when the Sens were decent, right? So I felt a little bit of pain for some Sens fans. That would be sad to see Craig Anderson go. But what do you think about some of that news, Bobby Ryan? That's the one thing that really blew me away.
Craig Anderson, the goalie in Ottawa since Martin Gerber.
He's had some good backup partners too. Think about this: Robin Leonard, Ben Bishop, who else? Brian Elliott. Like, we're talking a couple of decent starting goalies he's worked with in the past. Yeah, I got to be missing one too. Andrew Hammond. Like,
the Hamburglar is
back off.
Yeah, the Hamburglar is not
slow down. Right?
We all thought he was going to be.
Yeah, pump the
Bobby Ryan thing is kind of predictable though, because it's the situation we're in. The only thing that's surprising is that Eugene Melnyk has decided to pay someone to not do something, right? So it has to be the 5 or 6 million he's going to save on top of it. Bobby's still going to get paid 2/3 of his contract because of his age. This is something that we're going to see a lot of, Ryan. Unfortunately, in the COVID era, people say a lot of our debates about owners and how much money they spend is, well, this isn't their primary stream of income. And unfortunately, Ryan, the world we're living in today, a lot of these owners' primary stream of income has taken a massive impact because of COVID.
Yeah.
A massive impact. You take a look, and I'm stealing this from a show, but I listen to so much sports radio, I can't tell you which one. But the Pagulas, they're in the oil and gas industry, and that has taken a ridiculous hit here. Definitely. They own the Bills, they own the Sabres, right? So these sports. These sports franchises, they're going to be cutting corners. So we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot of guys who are going to be just shown the door for buyout purposes. And some Maple Leafs may even be along on that road. I don't know who looking ahead, but there are some RFAs that are that you could just walk away from. People who aren't arbitration eligible, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be a wild off season, and there are going to be some players who are available at a super cheap salary that you wouldn't have expected before. Like Bobby Ryan, wherever he signs, if you can get him for $1 million, like Jeff O'Neill said yesterday on Overdrive, you can get Bobby Ryan for $1 million and plug him in your third line, and he scores 15 goals for you. Cha-ching, cha-ching. You just won that signing.
You're saying similar to the $1.5 million, was it 2.5 or $1.5 million for Corey Perry, and you see the kind of production you're getting out of him when it matters, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I quote tweeted a guy on Twitter because every conversation about every free agent, it's like, oh, the Leafs should sign Wayne Simmons. Oh, the Leafs should sign Alex Pietrangelo. Oh, the Leafs should sign Bobby Ryan. It's like, we're just doing this to be funny, right? We're not doing this because we have a clean,
I don't think the Leafs should sign Bobby Ryan. So I'm just being honest. Yeah. I think he'll be beneficial. Sorry to cut you off. I think he'll be beneficial to whatever team he signs with, but whatever team he signs with needs to go in and get some proprietary information on some like ironclad Kevlar lined gloves that protect Bobby's fingers because he breaks them like they're China.
Oh my gosh, I think he's had like around 10 hand injuries, and I remember hearing that years ago, so it could be more. Like, that guy has glass hands, and I feel bad for him. I think, did he just win the Masterton?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
For his
congrats.
comeback, for his alcoholism, for everything
Yeah.
that he came back from, and good for him. Like great story.
Oh,
It was just same thing with Robin Leonard. The year previous, great story, well deserved winners of the Masterton. And it kind of little bit of a gut punch, but not really when you think of it, right? Like people are like, oh, why would Ottawa do this to Bobby? Such a good guy, blah blah blah. But what are they really doing? I mean, they're giving him a free $12 million to just go and play somewhere else.
yeah. To sign another contract, and guess what happens when you do that? Make more
It,
money
it,
at the
it'd be
same time.
different if they were showing him the door, right? And he had no other options and he was going to go home and lose himself into whatever possible depression or whatever could happen to him. He's not losing his career here. It's
No.
just, yeah, you're not worth the money we signed you. So we're going to save some of it on the back end and you can go try and make some more money from someone else.
Anything else you want to talk about in the NHL before we move on, buddy?
A couple trade rumor or not trade rumors, the free agency rumors, the Pietrangelo stuff. I know that people are talking about it. I know that Ren Lavoie came out and he said on I believe it was 680 or something. It was a Sportsnet station, and he said that that Pietrangelo wanted to stay in St. Louis, and it didn't work out. But he believes he wants to go home, and home is Toronto. But there's a lot that would need to be done to bring this guy into Toronto. Pietrangelo is looking for a signing bonus, so he's looking for a lot of money up front, which ding ding, Toronto does business
Apparently.
that way. Lots of money. But another competitor has entered the ring, and another renowned hockey insider has thrown his name down to this take, and it is Elliot Friedman and the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I did hear that on the 31 Thoughts podcast that came out yesterday. That's the only other team that I've heard of in the mix in the last little while. Of course, at least come up right away because he's from here and he knows Johnny T and all this, and this.
He had Leaf pajamas, and he had
Oh yeah,
a Matt Sundin poster and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah, and they all earlier before they got drafted, they all kind of co-conspirated and decided that they're going to come and play for the Leafs one day if they all could, get it all figured out. So Pietrangelo is just the second in the dominoes that are set to fall, right? That's what everybody is prophesizing. Again, when my dad and I talk about it at the dinner table, he seems to think we don't need Pietrangelo. That's the last thing we need. The last thing we need. I don't want them to sign him. Those are his words. And I do try to kind of convince him that it is a good thing for the Maple Leafs. Like everything you read, every article you read is like, yes, like this would
He's
exponentially
exactly what they
change them.
need. He's
Yeah,
exactly what they
those
need.
are the words. But yet again, like my dad brings up, like we've been through this in over the decades. He says it's just a wave. It just keeps going up and down, up and down. The Leafs they build a little bit, they draft well, they have a plan, they say they're going to go a certain way, and then eventually each and every time they spend a little bit too much in free agency on guys that are a little bit over the hill. So my dad does have that old kind of man approach, but I have to respect it because he's only speaking out of caution. He doesn't hate the Leafs. He doesn't want them to not succeed. But I think he's a little biased about the way the market has handled the John Tavares stuff and the way that we already see. Like we've talked about, how long is the contract window? Is it 7 years? Is it 5 years? All these types of things. How do you readjust the core now that he's in here? I think my dad argues like it's the last thing the Leafs need to discuss again because we're still just trying to get over the hump with the Tavares thing. So I can see why there are detractors, but let me close it out with this. If he's a Maple Leaf, they're Stanley Cup contenders. Without him, I can't tell you what Dubas is looking at, what possible, options are cheaper that could do a little damage and make a little bit of sense. But without him, I think they're right where they are. I think they're potentially a first round exit, if not making the playoffs again. So that's my conversation here. You go out and you find a way to get him on the team. You worry about it afterwards. Yes, that might mean, I'm sorry, getting rid of Nylander, getting rid of some guys that have contract. You might have to get rid of Marner. I'll say both of them so people are happy, right? Like, you know what I mean? But you might have to deal with contracts like that down the road. My final, in closing, is that he's good for the team. It's just, how far does this go? When we get to October 9th, is it even going to be an option, or will he already have signed that extension with St. Louis? There's people thinking he's going to sign the extension. So I'm still right on the fence, man.
I don't think he's staying in St. Louis. I think those talks are completely cut off and done. I think he's leaving. The problem with St. Louis is the structure was not defined for him, right? And if I'm a player and I'm signing a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract for my final contract in the NHL, let's be honest, this is his last
Your
contract.
final
Um,
big ticket one, because again, guys are going to sign later deals when they're veterans. Like he might not be retiring on this deal.
but his last good chunk of money,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And without the structure being defined, I think that's a big red flag, right? And St. Louis has never given out any signing bonuses. They're not a cash fluid team,
Right.
right? The Maple Leafs, the Vegas Golden Knights, the owners of these organizations, they're very cash fluid, right? They're very the ability to sign these contracts and give the signing bonuses right away. That's what attracts these players in now. I think the Leafs need to go out there and get Pietrangelo. Respect to your father and his opinion, but the guys that he is remembering that they did this on, the sports science has changed so drastically that Pietrangelo does not fit into that category. Pietrangelo is a world-class player, and he's coming in, yes, what will be considered the back half of his career, but he's still in his prime, right, as a defenseman. And a lot of being a number one defenseman is up here. It's the hockey IQ.
Can I
And
turn something back on you? Sorry, go ahead. Go
that
ahead.
man possesses some amazing hockey IQ.
You're right.
So I just think Pietrangelo's a perfect fit for Toronto, and I don't see Marner leaving. I'll say it again. He is not being traded, but Nylander, that is a massive possibility because his
The
contract
value,
is
yeah,
in that sweet spot,
for sure.
right? It's in that sweet spot cap wise, and it's in the sweet spot in the fact that the Leafs have paid a lot of it out already. So
For
all right,
sure.
Marner's not going anywhere. Nylander, if Pietrangelo signed, he's out the door.
My last word on Pietrangelo, though, is if they do sign him, like you'd like, as you just said, like great player on the back half of his career, right? All that stuff. I can't wait till the first podcast when you're bitching to me about his foot speed, like you did with John Tavares 2 years into his contract at less than 30 years old, John.
So long as he doesn't make stupid pinches, right, and get caught deep, then his foot speed isn't going to matter as
Okay.
much as the foot speed of a forward who is lagging behind two guys on his line.
I'm just saying. I'm just
Pietrangelo, to me, if you pair him with Morgan Riley's the guy who's going in, taking the puck in, going in deep, pinching, and Pietrangelo's the guy who's like, okay, I'm staying back and I'm going to cover Morgan's ass a majority of the time, right? And
I
that's
agree
how
with
I
you
view
there.
Pietrangelo. I probably will bitch about his foot speed, and you can bring it up, but I won't bitch about it as much as I do John Tavares, because man, when a forward loses it, it's just that much different.
I
You
think
do
I just
notice it
see.
sometimes with the defenseman when he gets beat
Yeah,
and he
oh yeah.
can't beat someone back, but the amount of times that happens is when a defenseman makes a stupid pinch.
It's all about positioning too. If you're losing foot speed, then you can change that. But that same can be said for the centerman, who essentially is like a defensive player, right? Like in your own zone, your positioning is everything. Just ask Zdeno Chara. You don't have to be very fast to be, in the way positioning. You can be large. That's an
Mhm.
advantage too, especially for that example. But no, that was more so tongue in cheek. I really wanted to highlight. I think what I see in my dad's point of view is kind of where that opinion, that comparison came from. Where I said, well, dude, we're going through this. Like when the Leafs exited this season, we argued that maybe the Tavares thing wasn't good for the Leafs, and look at his foot speed, and look at how it's like, wait, like this player is unreal. That's not going to change, and we only signed him 2 seasons ago. So if Pietrangelo sees any of that, like he's not going to want to be part of it. So that's the speculation. If I were Pietrangelo and I saw any of that, I may not want to be part of that, just because you kind of sit there and wonder, like, look at how we're talking about him right now. He's won a cup. He's got an 8-year deal. Okay, he doesn't have the signing bonus on the table, but he's got all that plus his home he doesn't have to sell. He's comfortable where he is. So there's got to be a burning desire to want to come here and have to put up with guys like Ryan and John talking about his foot speed at 30 years old. You know what I mean? Again, that's where my dad is like, well, does he even like is there a point to spending all that money when we're just going to hate the guy? Like that's the way this market is, right? We're gonna nitpick the guy. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a very negative point of view. Listen to me. Holy
Toronto
smokes.
likes to break their toys. Calm down, Rob Wong. Um, Yeah, Toronto likes to break their toys, and they're very rough on them. But when uh, when they stand the test of time, then they get a statue, a la Matt Sundin, right? Like we beat up on Matt Sundin, but he stood through it and he weathered the storm, and he is a legend, and he will be forever remembered. And so I think that if you're good enough to come here and you're good enough to accept the pressure that is Toronto, then you'll be able to survive. But a lot of guys who think they're good enough actually aren't, right?
I'm
So
giving you the final word on that because I can't disagree. But we have to move on. The beauty of doing a freaking podcast, eh? Like it's already 1:50 here, buddy, and we just wrapped up hockey. But I'm going to force us to wrap it up because we got lots to talk about. And the NBA was awesome last night. As you mentioned earlier on, you spent more time focusing on the Heat game while I was glued to the hockey game. Right after the Jays made it 10-0, I kind of decided I could turn on the hockey game. But Boston had a dominant second half in last night's game. They scored 41 points in the third quarter after trailing by 7 heading into the second half. I misread it. I thought I was almost kind of foreshadowing in my mind. I thought Boston was leading when I quickly checked the score at half. I'm like, oh shit, Boston by 7 at half. This is going to be, a tough one for Miami. So I was surprised to find out, as you corrected me later on, that no, they were down 7 at half, score 41 points in the third, and then just continue to cap that with Miami's failure to kind of score. You said there was like 8 minutes late in the game where they couldn't score.
yeah, it was
Just
in the
tough
third
stuff.
quarter. Well, it was in the third quarter. That's why the
Oh,
number was so
geez.
big
Okay.
for the Celtics. And yeah, I was spending a lot of time watching basketball. That happens when you put some money on it. You kind of want to pay attention to it.
Still
Hockey,
invested.
I will admit to you, man, I cannot bet on hockey. It is such a hard sport to
Oh,
predict.
yeah.
But with the ebbs and flows of basketball, normally I got my finger on the pulse. And last night, I was believing in the Heat. I had some money on the Heat, and then I had a tough third quarter along with them. Man, 41 points for the Celtics, and there was like an 8-minute stretch there where the Heat could not get anything. They may have gotten one or two baskets, but there was no flow. There were no runs. There was no continuity to the way they were playing. Boston was just dominating. They were turning the ball over. They were on the glass, offensive boards, defensive boards. It was a dominant performance by the Celtics, one that we haven't seen before. And Coach Brad Stevens actually said it in one of the timeouts. He's like, "I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is basically the first time I've seen Celtic basketball all series."
Oh,
Right. And
geez.
that's their own coach talking to them. Right. And obviously he's trying to fire them up, but that's the truth. That's the truth, because we haven't seen the Boston Celtics really play Celtic basketball. The Raptors saw it a couple games, but for a majority of the last, I would say, 7 or 8 games that the Celtics have played, they've blown leads. They've blown leads like it was their job to blow leads. They were the Generals versus the Globetrotters, right?
Like that's how a basketball game goes. You blow a lead, don't you?
Yeah.
Like we're the Atlanta Falcons, we're the Toronto Maple Leafs. We are the Boston Celtics.
Anyway, but it was good. I guess it was good to see for Celtics fans, man. It lost me a little bit of money, but it was crazy to watch. 41 points in the third. I couldn't believe it. I was honestly losing my mind. Jason Tatum going off, Kemba Walker going off, and the biggest piece for me was Daniel Tice. Man, the big man, he's normally not a good shooter, so they were leaving him wide open, and he was just stepping in, draining 13-footer,
Oh
stepping
my
in,
God.
drain a 12-footer, step it in, drain a 10-footer,
That'll kill you.
dunk, layup, and offensive boards after offensive boards. And it was deadly. Marcus Smart had 5 assists in the game. When Marcus Smart has and the best players sometimes only get 3 or 4 assists a game, guys. Marcus Smart, when he gets 5 assists a game, he's getting the ball to Tatum, getting the ball to Walker. So it was just a tough night for the Heat. They really weren't able to match the Boston Celtics intensity in the second half of the game, and I'm a little sad. I thought that they were going to be celebrating going on to the NBA Finals, but Miami needs to recoup, come back out strong for, I believe, where are we? We're on Saturday, so it'll be Sunday night.
Tomorrow night, they'll
Yeah,
find a way to
Sunday night.
squeak it in between the 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. Sunday football. So good luck. I know I'll be tuning into that, but it's like Game 4 Wednesday night. I think they need a replication of that. Like they need Tyler Hero to come out and
Hero didn't do anything for 3
Again,
quarters.
yeah, it was one of those like, where'd you go, Pascal? I thought we could rely on you, right? All of a sudden, you're like, okay, you put up 37 points in the last game, so that's
Where'd you
I,
go, Pascal? I'm sorry, I'm still dying.
hey, it was remnants, or it felt similar to that, but it was still a thrilling end in that game. That's the one I wanted to touch on because that was a close win. I thought the the Celtics could have ended up with that one, and at this point. I mean, I feel like it's anyone's series because, dude, Boston's one of those teams. We saw them do it against the Raptors where they go on those long stretches where they look like the dominant team. I feel like Miami, they have been in the driver's seat at times in this series, but even the wins, again, could be close. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
It's
With
the
it,
third quarter, man. I'm telling you, without that third quarter, like I'm looking at the stats right now. First quarter, Miami 26, Boston 18. Second
okay.
quarter, Miami 32, Boston 33. So they lost the second quarter by 1 point.
Yeah, dead even.
Fourth quarter, Miami 25, Boston 29. So they lost that by 4 points. So a total of 5 points.
It's a
And they
they're a
won.
possession and a half, or two
They
possessions.
won the first quarter by 8 points. So they would have won by 3 points if they played a stalemate third quarter. But in the third quarter, they lost the quarter 41-25.
So you come out from half. What's the coach saying in the locker room? Like, way to go, boys.
They were too lazy.
Don't change a thing. You're doing great. Pop out after half, and
They were
you
lazy.
can't play basketball.
And I can't believe I'm saying that about professional athletes, right? Look at me. Look at the double chin I've got rocking, and I'm talking about them being lazy. But it's just the way it is. It's inherent laziness because you feel we got this. We got them right where we want them. We got a 7-point lead. They're going back down. We just got to survive their first burst in the third quarter, and then we're going to shut it down, and we're going to be popping champagne all night long. No. What happened was you came out a little bit too lackadaisical instead of lazy. I'll say lackadaisical in the third quarter, and Boston poured it on. They turned on the hot water all the way and scalded you to death. That's what happened, and I don't think that'll happen again. I think that Miami's going to go back. They're going to look at the box score the way I just looked at it and be like, guys, if we had just played a scratch third, we would have been fine. What the hell happened? We went to sleep.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, again, I'm not a pro athlete, and I've watched my fair share of pro hockey, but not enough basketball to really be an expert on it. You can't give Boston this game, this upcoming game. So you have to play like another way to look at it is you have to play simple basketball because you kind of do have two chances. If you play your game twice, you should get out of it. You're already up 3-2, but you can't let them even it up. You just can't. Again, we saw like the kind of way that Boston can get clutch, and I think their only weakness is a guy you mentioned had a great game 5. To me, their only weakness and their start, they don't really have a center, and that's like a good one, right? Like an all-star one, and that's everybody else like on that starting lineup is gross. Like, right, you got Walker, you've got Jalen, you've got oh my God, Marcus Smart, like absolutely disgusting. He's literally like a Kyle Lowry light, is he not? Just so mean, so in your face. And then the guy I'm missing, Hayward. Like we're talking about an unreal
Tatum
team,
as well.
Tatum
Yep.
as well. So you get. I guess you get somebody else playing center, and they have a ridiculous starting 5. You don't even need Tice in there. So I would not be feeling good if you go to a game 7. But man, Jimmy Butler's been so clutch. Those first 2 games were all Butler. I feel like he's kind of slipped a little bit. He hasn't been in control of the game, again, in the driver's seat, but he needs a little bit of help. Like in game 1, the massive block from Adebayo with 2.5 seconds to go on Tatum, the aforementioned. With like, you know what I mean? There's few few moments where I can pick out where it hasn't been just him, but Butler's got to be above and beyond the best player on the court for Miami to get it done.
Yeah, I think there's some wounded warriors out there for Miami as well. So we'll see exactly what they can provide for them. But what you need is you need at least 10 to 12 from Crowder. You need 15 from Duncan Robinson. You need 13 to 15 from Tyler Hero. You don't need 37. And then let Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic take you the rest of the way. Goran Dragic is amazing. hit along with Bam at like you got a big three in Butler, Dragic, and Adebayo, and then
Yeah.
you got a good core of guys in Crowder, Robinson, and Hero around them that can shoot the three. So they just need to be steady. They need to be to shoot the ball the way they know how to shoot the ball with confidence, and it'll drop for them. I think Miami's too much for Boston to handle. I really think that Miami's going to walk away with it in game number 6, but we'll see what happens for the Celtics. I got a good buddy who's a Celtics fan, and he was nothing but happy last night when I was losing money. So yeah.
Looking back on it though, man, again, I'm still really surprised that the Heat are in this position because we just outlined like the 37 points from Hero is actually it's an outlier. Like you're not going to expect that every night again. Look what happened last night. When you really break it down, the matchups, like Boston outmatches them all over the court. Like those starting five that I just mentioned, like you compare Adebayo, Butler, and Dragic, it's not enough. It's not enough, and yet the Heat are up 3-2. So you get a game like the 37 points from Hero. It's a close game, and they still was that a close game? I can't remember now. Too many games happening all at once, but they still get the W there with 37 points from a guy you don't expect it from. Who's to say, like, again, if it's like last night, he doesn't put up 37, is this series even looking the same way? So I just kind of in hindsight, I still can't believe that Boston isn't in the lead in this series. Like, how are they facing elimination?
You could also look at that Hero game and say if Tatum didn't put up a goose egg in the first half of that game, would have been different.
Okay,
Right?
there you go.
He
Little
put 28.
factors.
He put 28 points up in the second half. Did Tatum? But better first half than would the Boston Celtics have won that one. Hindsight is 2020, right? But that's not what happened in the game. The Western Conference got a game going on tonight, though. We got the Lakers versus the Nuggets, and the Nuggets got them right where they want them, right? You said it. They got them right where they want them, right?
Is that true though? In a series like this, like they already took down Kawhi and PG, but I don't think those guys were even anywhere close to this team, this LA team, because in I want to say Game 3 and Game 4, the player of the game was Anthony Davis. It wasn't even LeBron. Like this team is gross. Those two guys
free throws in that
absolutely
last
carried.
game. A lot of
Oh,
free throws.
I
in that
wonder if
last
that
game
was
for the
influenced
Lakers.
at all. That may or may not have been influenced by a post-game scrum.
Yeah, so a lot of question marks regarding the way that game was officiated, maybe in favor of the Lakers. But you've got Jamal Murray and putting on a show every single night. That layup is going to live
Dude,
in highlight history
he finishes
forever.
like
My
everything.
buddy said it the best. I can't. I think it was my buddy Matt Henry. He's just like waiting for the Canadian heritage moment with that Jamal Murray layup. So,
That's hilarious. I can't believe how often he finishes. Like, and you're like, don't go for that shot. Oh my God. Okay. Like it's just acrobatics. You're like, okay, all right. I haven't seen enough out here. I don't even know a guy to compare it to, obviously, because I'm gonna be the first to be like, oh, it's like Jordan. No, no, no. Like, obviously, he's not that good, but I watch this guy every time, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how do you just get that to fall in every single time? He's got the
and
touch.
it's not like it clanks around either.
No.
It's whoosh. He
Yeah,
knows
and
where it is.
he's driving a rim with two guys on him, and you're like, okay, what the hell?
Yeah, he's
It's
got
awesome.
Anthony Davis, who's like a foot and a half, 2 feet taller than him,
Yeah.
and has his arms up to the sky, and he just whew, over the top teardrop swish.
Yeah. I'm starting to
And
become more and more
yeah.
infatuated game after game.
Well,
the crazy thing is too, I said to you before we started recording, I'm doing a Raptors franchise mode. Like I almost contemplated doing a Nuggets one first. That's how much it's affecting my fandom. Right? I'm like, this team is so likable, and Jamal Murray is a Canadian. It's like the Drake effect. I don't really like rap, but like I like Drake. Like I don't really like the team, but I like Murray. I like Jokic. So let's go. I don't know, man. They are really impressive, but can they get it done tonight? Can they survive?
Before I get to that, just watching Murray play, it gives you it gives you good feelings for Canada basketball, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray.
Isn't
If
Ja Morant
Wiggins,
Canadian? or no?
No. If Wiggins figures it out, and like the roster just it makes itself out, right? And the Canadian talent is just blossoming in the NBA. Now there are a lot of other guys out there, pardon me, from Europe that you can't look over, like Lithuania, Spain, etc. But if this talent all decides to show up for Canada for the FIBAs, if the FIBA tournament does indeed end up happening because of the COVID night or the COVID pandemic, then it looks like Canada might have a real good shot at a silver medal. Because ain't no way anyone's beating America. So let's just say everyone is fighting for second place.
Yeah, that's funny. I just think again, he's so fun to watch. That whole team is fun to watch, and I mean, uh, there is a chance that they survive another game. Could you imagine? They would have to be the first team to come back from three straight series down 3-1.
Murray, oh, they're the first team to come back from 2 series 3-1.
Wow.
So,
Okay, I
well,
missed
they're
that
already in the
memo.
history books.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who they're the comeback kids. They're the
So
cardiac kids.
then my point is, this is where the Cinderella story ends, right? Like this is it. They're not doing it three times, are they?
Well, whether or not they beat the Lakers 3 straight games to win the Western Conference, I don't know. But if I'm looking at this team and how it's constituted, and it's not just Murray and it's not just Jokic. You've got Paul Millsap, you've got Jeremy Grant, and you've got Gary Harris, who are all contributing in ways that the Lakers really don't have those guys. Rondo's not shooting a high clip. Marcus Morris,
Caruso looked ugly.
Morris isn't shooting, yet Caruso isn't really on the court very often. And when LeBron James isn't going and it's all on the back of Anthony Davis, I really think that the Nuggets can take advantage of that situation. Now, are they facing a dominant force in these two guys? Of course they are. Are the odds against them? They always have been this entire playoffs every time they've been down in a series.
I think
So
they
they're
thrive on
used
that.
to it.
Yeah.
They definitely thrive on it. They win tonight. They win handedly tonight. Double digits.
All right.
Nuggets win by double digits tonight and force it to a game 6. Whether they win game 6 or not, I'm not going to say, but they will win this game, and it'll be a big win for the Nuggets.
Yeah, I again, it's like I got to go with you there just because like they've had so much excitement in this run that it can't end like this. It can't end so abruptly. Even if they don't pull it off, like I could see them pulling 6 or 7 out of this one just to make it that much more fun. Give us our money's worth if they haven't already, right? Like that's just the kind of feel I get from this team. And again, another reason why I had to hesitate. I was like, no, this is my team. I'm doing a franchise with the Raptors, but like I really was like, I don't know, man. I'm this is the team I like watching right now. So let's move on. Are you good with basketball for now? I think that's a good cover for basketball today.
Yeah, definitely. Final point for me would be I'd love to see a Miami, if Lakers do move on to Miami Lakers final, because I think Miami is built exactly the way that it's needed to beat a team like the Lakers.
Ooh, okay. So I'll side with you there again. Well, I'm supposed to disagree every once in a while, but holy, only because like similar to the Nuggets story, I said it in when we talked about the East there. I can't believe Miami's leading this series. Like I don't really think I saw them beating Milwaukee. I don't think you did either until it happened. We were talking the Raptors getting ready to play Milwaukee if all was ideal like it happened the year before, and it just didn't happen that way. Both of those teams essentially got upset. Again, Boston, we're now seeing, or I'm now seeing why. No, that was not an upset. The Raptors met their maker, but here we are. We're kind of looking at a team that's we're up against the ropes. So good luck to them. I'm just kind of stuck with I you don't
I
want
think
to
the
see it
Heat.
end so abruptly, right? Like the Heat are one of those teams where they surprised everybody. So to see them get to the final and then have the makings to upset LeBron and the Lakers, like that scares you. That's kind of fun.
Not that these are all equal players, but Jimmy Butler equal, Kawhi Leonard, Goran Dragic equal, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero equal, Pascal Siakam, a Bam Adebayo equals the combination of Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. This Heat team reminds me a hell of a lot of the Raptors from last year. The way they're constituted, the way they build, the way they play, the way they score. Like, it's not a 1 or 2 person heavy team. It's everybody sees the ball, and whoever's hot that night is going to see it a lot. And
And
that's
there's one
exactly
kind
how
of
the
driving
Raptors.
force too. You
And
have
there's
the
one kind of
one
driving
star.
force. Yeah.
Yeah. Good
And yeah,
comparison.
so that's the, and I think that's why I kind of like them this year. And it scares me because when you say like Giannis is going to choose the Heat or the Raptors, and then you see, like, I'm making the comparison of the Heat to the Raptors, or the Heat the next stage of what the Raptors were, a little bit maybe of a better fit for an Antetokounmpo. And then you hear the rumor right before we get into basketball, you hear the rumor that maybe Miami just goes, or maybe Milwaukee goes and says, give me Tyler Hero and something else, and you can have Giannis.
Yeah, we almost forgot to talk about this. We were talking about it off air. It's something that when I said to you, like, if only Miami had that one more piece, they would be with Butler. They would be as good, if not like better than most of the dynamic duos out there. They've got the support, and you've even gone further into it today. I wasn't expecting that. The comparison to the Raptors, a team so close to home, where you can really dissect those individual roles and see again where Dragic kind of would be the. Did you say he'd be the Lowry?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Like the aggressive point guard, just making the plays. He's a veteran. He's gritty. He gets it done. Like, dude, I hear you on all that. So in the end, it's kind of, yeah, you point out, it flew over my head when we were talking off air. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Miami is really the other destination that they've brought up. And at this point, you've solidified it to the point where they're almost Toronto with better weather. Like, good luck competing against that, Masai.
Yeah, you got to hope that your relationship with the player is that much.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, it's I broke it down for myself, and I almost brought myself to tears when I was going through
Like
it.
I'm going to be in tears tonight when Stamkos lifts the cup. You were sitting
Yeah.
there breaking that down, like
Yeah.
in tears.
It's like no Antetokounmpo for Toronto. Yeah, you can
Seriously,
hope
you
and you
just
can hope.
blew it
Yeah.
wide open, because if there's another team out there that is more similar to the Raptors, I'd like to hear it. There probably is, just as close, but are they in the same conversation? No, like this, it's just so, it's just so Toronto how there's a guy here, he's being talked about in some conversations as like the best player in the NBA. He could be in our laps, but yeah, there's one team out there, and it seems to be just us with better weather, and everybody in the entire free agency history goes to the team with better weather. That's why the Raptors haven't been able to get anybody, and that's why I believe Kawhi didn't stay. Like, there's a lot of factors that roll in here. Man, we can't get out of a sport. We just went from hockey to basketball. Tried to get to basketball. Let's do it. I'll force us out of another segment before we get
Let's get into
caught up.
some playoff baseball. How about
Another channel changer last night, though. Jays up 10-0, top of the fourth. They either dominate or get dominated. I said that at the top of the show, and Overdrive mentioned that earlier in the week. They couldn't have been more right, because there's no in between lately. Like, they haven't had a close game or like something full of important plays or clutch moments in a very long time. If they have, they're few and far between.
Since the 18-1 loss to the Mets,
And that's
they have
done. That's
had
still a blowout.
well, no, I was going to say,
That's
since
the
the
starting
18 to
point.
1 loss to the Mets, they've had 4 games that were not blowouts.
And in those 4 games, were they
were like 1 or 2 run games, but they were still both high scoring.
Okay. Not too bad. But even still, it's one of those moments where you look back and you think, like, is this real? Like, I want to follow the Jays as best as I can. Like, we talk about them on a podcast, but like when there's the NBA on, the NHL on, and tomorrow the NFL, and your team goes up 10-0 top of the 4th inning, like, you almost, like, you're done. Like, there's not a way to justify staying, because you're just going to miss out on even more important stuff. It's actually kind of crazy. It sucks. But hopefully in the coming weeks, when we're in postseason baseball, like, those things are going to be at the top of the list, obviously, right? Because the results mean a little more. Now that they've clinched, I think we're kind of sitting pretty. We're fat and happy, eh?
The results still do mean something, but
Right.
before I get into those, I do want to mention, and it's funny, I read something different. It was like, is this real? I thought you were going somewhere else with that. It's like, is this team real? And honestly, if you were to think back, Ryan, to the first week, second week of play, Ken Giles goes down. Third week of play, Nate Pearson goes down. Then we lose Matt Shoemaker. Then we lose Bo Bichette. And if at that point you're just looking, and at that point the Jays were 4 or 5 games under 500.
Yeah, it was before they went on
So
their massive run, for sure.
so you're looking at that point, you're just like, man, this season is over. And if at that point you were to say, no, the Blue Jays are going to make the postseason, you would have called yourself insane. But the Blue Jays did something that is not often seen. And did they take advantage of a shortened season? Yes. But the way I read into this is that this young core group of players finally put their foot down and said, no, this is our team. This is how we play. We're a winning core. We were a winning core when we came up, and we're going to be a winning core in the major leagues. And if you look at the way the core four has played throughout, and with the return, with the return of Bo Bichette, that screams. Vladimir Guerrero has been playing outstanding. Kevin Pigeau, the same. Teoscar Hernandez is in the goddamn MVP conversation.
The dingers.
He's not going to win it. There is no doubt in my mind, no thought in my mind that he will win the MVP. But the fact that he is even in the conversation.
Yeah, he might not be there
Hernandez
again.
is in the, like, this is.
Was there a piece of you for a moment that wondered if we had another Bautista? Like, you're like, holy shit, he fought. Oh my God, there he is. Like, we got a guy that's going to start hitting dingers.
I honestly think there's more to come out of Teo.
Okay.
I really believe, and this is where I'm coming at with all of these points, is in this shortened season, under this pressure cooker, in a place where they are foreign, they don't have the creature comforts of home, they don't have the comforts of major league ballparks all the time. They're struggling, as I got something in my mouth, they're struggling through this season, yet they are still able to power through and make the playoffs. Make the playoffs, guaranteed make the playoffs. And I think in a 162, in next year, if they do get 162, that the Toronto Blue Jays will make the playoffs. I think that you're seeing a core group, not unlike you saw the core group in New York and in Boston take over for their strong playoff pushes. I think this is the time for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think this is the coming out party for them. I don't know what they're going to be able to do in these playoffs, but I do believe that if they get any sort of momentum, look out. It's like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Look out. They're gonna run over people. Look at what has been happening. It was said best. I believe John Morosi said it. They got their asses whipped by the Yankees a week ago. Spanked left, back, forward, 40 runs, given up record MLB numbers. And if they did not have a backbone in this past series, they would have tucked their tail and ran and said it's game over. But this team has a backbone. This team has the ability to score a lot of runs. And I think that if they win out and are able to take that fifth spot, having Buffalo as home is going to be a huge advantage in the wild card.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like right now, it looks like they're going to be playing the Tampa Bay Rays, right? They're going to be matching up against the Rays, who have given them trouble since like years before this generation of Blue Jays. But even this season was tough. I think they opened the season to the Rays on the road, which they always do, and they lost, which they always do. And that's how the conversation started. But similar to what you just said, I don't think they're going to give a damn. They're not going to give a damn who they're playing, right? So I think that excites me. I really do. And I think in that same interview, we listen to a lot of the same radio stations. They mentioned that these are all sons of big leaguers. These are all guys who have grown up knowing kind of what it's like to be a part of high stakes baseball, low stakes baseball, just live in the moment. And he thinks, might have even been a separate interview, who knows? But there was a take out there that these guys' heartbeats are just going to be a little bit slower than your average anxious young player in their first playoff, because these guys know what they're doing. Not because they've been there before, but because it's in here, it's in the DNA. It's something where, like, I don't know how many times you get told by your parent, man, you're so much like your other parent. Like, it's literally it's ingrained in you. They're winners, or they're those, you know what I'm trying to say. It's just who they are. So they're born leaders. They're ready to go. It's one of those things where they could lose and it's still going to be the best experience they've ever had. and at the same time, they could show up and blow the entire fan base and the entire major leagues out of the water with their performance. So again, just going to throw both sides out there. I don't know which one's coming, but it's nice to know that like that's the local team and it's going to be the future here real soon. Like they're going to be a damn good team. They're going to be, even if they're not already.
Yeah, and can we talk about? I talked about how the Blue Jays, if they have momentum, they can be a bowling ball. Well, they technically have a bowling ball on the roster.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone's new favorite player.
Alejandro Kirk,
I'm glad you got to it.
all the Alejandros out there, as the good show calls them. This guy can hit, eh?
That's
The
about
one
all he can
problem,
do.
well, the one problem I have is I don't want to hear a damn word about Vlad Guerrero's weight if we have this guy catching and running running the bases. I believe it was said that he actually his speed is actually deceiving negatively. He looks like he's moving faster out there than he actually is.
I
And
laughed at that too, man. I'm like, what is that? Because there's a lot of parts moving. Is that what? Is that what you like? You take one step and like half of the kind of frontal pectoral moves in a gelatin type motion. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm like, how do you look fucking slow, faster than you are when you're slow like that? I don't get it.
I don't know,
I
man.
love him. We all love Alejandro Kirk. He's similar to Munenori Kawasaki, right? Like a guy that's just lovable, and is going to get clutch hits. I think Kawasaki couldn't really hit the dinger, and he was, I forget what he played, maybe second base. He was a good utility piece, but not like a pro league guy. Whereas the talk around Alejandro Kirk is like he could be in the midst of a breakout, and if he hones in these unique skills that he has, right? That swing motion that apparently gives him an advantage, as opposed to some other hitters of his stature, which, I mean, they'll either wear out too soon or they won't have what it takes to be able to get the launch angle in the MLB. Basically, the way Alejandro Kirk's swing is broken down, he has the what is called like the longevity in his swing. So he should be able to be an MLB player. But beyond that, everything else remains to be seen. So it's kind of fun to, well, all this is happening and the Jays are successful. They've clinched a playoff spot. Vladdy's all of a sudden heating up the Jays at what may be just the right time. You've got Alejandro Kirk in here mixing it up. Like we miss Munenori and now we've got an Alejandro Kirk. I love it.
Um, you know, he's listed at 5'8", but there's no way he's that tall.
It's like 5'6".
And maybe it's just the fact that the plane of his bat is on the same plane as a lot of the pitches, right? So whereas the guys are like 6'3", 6'4", they're swinging and they're coming after it, whereas Kirk is kind of just sitting there and he's just giving her, and it's just right in the swing path, right? And I mean, good on him. He could be a career DH. Now I'm not saying he's a bad catcher, but this dude must have oak trees from the knees down if his body can hold up his weight in the crouch. Like that is oak trees from the knee down. Like he's got
just trying to picture it. Yeah,
he's got roots grown into the ground. That he's a Pokemon. He just grows roots. That's how he can stay
yeah,
up. I don't
know,
it's
gonna work.
I don't know what's going on, but like I fully see him as a DH. I love Jano as a catcher. I think Jano's got a better arm to throw guys out. Now that could just be repetition and experience, but I think that we're going to see two catchers in the lineup for the playoffs, man. I think you're going to see Alejandro Kirk out there and Danny Jansen catching and Kirk DHing.
Interesting. What do you think for the matchup? First matchup, would you make sure to have a Ryu out there? Would you maybe try to
he's
mix
starting
it up?
game one.
Okay.
I don't.
Against
I know
Snell,
they
right?
said. I know they said that you could possibly see Walker starting and then having someone come in after 4 or 5 innings for Walker. But I think that especially if you're going up against a stronger team in Tampa, a team that knows you very well, you want to go out there with your best foot forward, and your best foot forward is the 9-3 Hyunjin Ryu, who has a 2.67 ERA through the year. Once again, just an outstanding year, and with a full year, probably would have won the Cy Young or challenged for the Cy Young.
Would have been in the contention for sure.
Yeah, would have definitely been in contention for the Cy Young again. So he's been outstanding, and I think he deserves game one. And you win game one, and then you figure out from there. If it's a Walker mix, or if you go with Shoemaker mix, one or the other, you got a lot of good guys down there that can give you some innings, and you're going to have a lot of guys who were starting games in the bullpen too, a la Robbie Ray, Ross Stripling, right? So you'll have guys available to patch games together, but I think game one definitely has to be Ryu.
Your starting depth is only going to be, what, 3 pitchers, right? Maybe 4 before you're going to go right back to Ryu, especially in the playoffs, especially without a super deep, roster of aces. Like some teams have the luxury maybe to use 3, 4,
And
all
there's no
5.
days off. There's no days off.
Okay,
By the
Bill
way,
Belichick.
back to back
Okay.
to back.
All right,
No,
Bill.
the games.
No,
So,
I know.
I was just
I'm
trying
just
to
being an
say.
ass.
Just trying to say, it's like most people are used to these divisional series and these wild card series.
Let me just
right?
check. No, I'm just double checking. That is a perfectly crisp neckline. Yeah, you are, and that hair looks great. No, you're not Bill Belichick. Because let's get into football here before we do a 3-hour podcast. We talk Jays. We teed up the matchup here. We'll keep an eye on them as the playoffs get in here. But just to open up the NFL, man, is Bill okay? Was that cry for help, or was that one of those meta fascist statements where, similar to where he says I don't have snap face or face chat, he kind of goes out of his way to pretend like he's not cool to make him sound cool. Did Bill show up to that press conference looking like that so we all talk about Bill?
Man,
I have a weird
don't
feeling.
know. I don't know what was going on there, but the best analogy I heard, it was like one of his assistant coaches went into his office and woke him up out of a nap off of the couch. It's like, you got to go do the press conference right now. And he ran in and looking like that. It looked like he just woke up from a nap, like you napped on the couch and you got all the crease marks from the cushion in your face.
Little yellow crusty right here.
Yeah. That's
he
what
looks
Bill
horrible.
looked like. And my one question is if one of his players showed up looking like that, what would his reaction have been?
He would cut guys depending on their status, right? Like there's
Cam
a certain
Newton,
level. Would get
Cam
cut.
Newton can show up looking like he owns Curious George at home, but if someone showed up looking like Bill Belichick one day, I think they're getting cut.
Yeah, you have a great point. Yeah, Cam Newton wore that little yellow rain suit, right?
Yeah, he's got the.
I'm like, what kind of reference is that? I'm like, oh no, I picture that now. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, his first week for the Patriots, he wore this whole yellow suit and had like a top hat or something. So yeah, it was a strange look, but yeah, disheveled Bill was definitely trending in NFL conversations, and honestly, I believe he just does it just to screw with people. He probably looked going in, and he's like, and just messed his.
He's like, grab me a pair of scissors, would you? And he just takes a couple of chops there, a couple of pieces of hair, grabs all that he can.
As I knock my own headphone cord out, so
it's all good. I carried us. Don't worry. The audience has no clue you lost, dude. Except they might be looking.
Yeah, except they might have seen me just smack. I'm part Italian, guys. I talk with my hands. But yeah, I fully believe that he walked up to the door and he looked at his own reflection and he looked too presentable.
Yeah,
and so he just messed it all up.
Yeah, it didn't make sense for him to look that put together.
Yeah, he's like, I look like I didn't do any work today.
Raiders. I'm wearing this hat on purpose, my friend, because your New England Patriots, the 1-1 New England Patriots, have an interesting matchup this weekend. It's one of the 1 p.m. games, and it's the 2-0 Raiders, a team that surprisingly stole a win from the Saints on was it Monday? That was the Monday night game, I think. Yeah. Kind of a disgusting finish. They totally just ran away with it in the second half. It was one of those games that you got all the analysts in the NFL conversating about, is Drew Brees done? Not only could he not throw the long ball, that's been a couple of years now, he's throwing garbage short ball too. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but rising from the depths are the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. I'm wearing the hat, John, I will say, for 2 reasons. Number one, we all know I'm a major Vegas Golden Knights fan, right? We love the Vegas Golden Knights here. Number two, this hat's been kicking around in my house for 4 years, 5 years. Never had the gumption to wear it. Never had the care to wear it. I also don't have an NFL team, so I could wear anybody's paraphernalia. It doesn't matter.
You're gonna get absorbed into the black hole.
Yeah, well, at this point, after those 2 weeks of performance, I'm starting to go go crazy on the Raiders. I think they look good. I said to you before the show started, I think this Josh Jacobs is an impressive, young piece there. I don't have any faith in their quarterback, but hey, just like that, they're 2-0 to start the season. How do you think How do you think Cam and the Patriots fare against the Raiders this week? I'm sure you're gonna have a little bit of bias, but give me both sides of it if you don't mind, please. Come on. I'm a brand new Raider fan here. I need talked off the ledge.
So yeah, talking about the Raiders and the Patriots, Ryan. This is a team that's always really given the Patriots a tough, hard fought battle. But I wanna do a little bit of a biopic on the Raiders here. You know, I know I'm a Patriots fan. People know I'm a Patriots fan. So I do have a little bit of a bias, but strong team over there, led by Coach Gruden. You got Josh Jacobs and you got Darren Waller. Darren Waller's a tight end, and he plays like an all-star wide receiver. He lines up everywhere, and he's just outstanding. He's a safety blanket for Derek Carr. Jacobs is rushing up and down the field. He's a guaranteed 80 yards plus per game. If you're betting on him for receiving and rushing yards, then he's a guaranteed 100 plus per game. The Raiders are a well-built team, and they're really gritty defensively, as we've seen against the Saints. So I think that it's going to be a tough challenge for the New England Patriots. But after going up against the Seattle Seahawks, I think that the Patriots are going to be able to put this one together. Getting down to that final play, that final drive, and just not getting it done, that is a team-building moment. That's a moment where you go back to the locker room if you're the Patriots and be like, guys, this is a legitimate content. This is a guy who's probably going to win the MVP in Russell Wilson, and we were down to the final play.
Right.
Close. We're close. We're not a bad team. Let's get together. Let's band together. Let's get it done next week, and let's get back on the winning side of things. And I think that's the way the Patriots are going to believe or act and behave. Julian Edelman in that game against the Seahawks had 167 yards receiving for a career high when he spent a decade with Tom Brady.
The first thing I was gonna say is Edelman has found a new best friend in Cam Newton, because in the end, like, or vice versa, because obviously you're new to the scheme, you're new to the team. Wow, that's a new lyric. Let's write that one down. But he comes in and you gotta rely on somebody. You just mentioned that Waller's a safety blanket over on the other side of the field. Well, man, oh man, like Edelman putting up those kind of numbers for Newton is only gonna make like, I have Edelman on my fantasy team, like just by chance, dude. By accident, because I didn't know who to pick late round. And I was like, that's a name I know. And I'm like, oh, he's not playing with Tom Brady anymore. I wonder. Like, dude, you know what I mean? He's going to be one of the most important pieces for Cam Newton this season. And if not, there's going to be somebody that just comes out of the shadows, because it basically looks like that's going to be like his, the 1-2. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to that matchup. And again, brand new Raiders fan here, so I could easily be heartbroken and maybe jump off the bandwagon. But I don't know. I wanted your take on it because I know you're a massive Patriots fan. But with a team that's 2-0, there's going to have to be some reason why, right? It's not just that they played two bad teams to start the season off. And off the top of my head, I had it, but I can't remember who the Raiders did play. It's not like like you're looking at it in the opposite side of things. We'll move on to the Houston Texans and Steelers game. We actually briefly talked about this before we got on air. And you were saying like you're fading the Texans all day. You don't like the way that their season has started, but then you look at their schedule, and the first two games that they played were Chiefs and Ravens. So the 0-2 Texans, they might be a little bit better than you think. Any chance that changes your opinion in their game this weekend against the 2-0 Steelers, or are you still steadfast in thinking Watson doesn't have enough options with DeAndre Hopkins? Like, are you still thinking it's just a dream at this point without those options? And I believe they lost. No, did they lose somebody else last season too? Somebody big off the defensive line. In a trade. I could be confused. Maybe I'm confused.
Clowney?
Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I had to think about that one because he's changed teams a couple times since.
I put you on the spot there, but I'm thinking, am I wrong here? No, there was a guy. So they've lost some pieces too. Are you still thinking that they're in tough here, or do you think maybe that factor changes things a little?
I think that the Texans are amazingly middle class, right? So they're a team that's going to win 9 games, maybe 10 games, maybe win you a playoff game.
But say 9-10 games will get you in there.
Never take you to the dance being the big game. I think they were closer last year with obviously the 1-2 punch of Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins, but for some reason Hopkins didn't get along with coach or didn't get along with the owner, and he was literally dismissed basically for pocket change.
So that was
Um,
strictly like a personnel. That wasn't like they needed to trade him
they
because they
did
had a
not
better.
need to
No,
trade him
okay.
at all. That was a whole
They just
Hopkins didn't
gifted
want to
Kyler
be there.
Murray like an amazing receiver.
And
There you go.
that's the way it was looked at, right? I believe they got David Johnson back in the return, and a decent running back, but nowhere near the level of talent that you were giving up with Hopkins. And it really left Will Fuller completely exposed to being the number one wide receiver on the Texans. And while Will Fuller is a good wide receiver, he's not a number one guy. He made a lot of his catches last year because he had DeAndre Hopkins being double teamed, and you had to make a decision if you're going to double team Hopkins or if you're going to play man for man. And a lot of the times, Fuller was able to break away from the pack and make some amazing catches. So, being the number one target right now, it doesn't seem to be working out. And it's funny to say that the Texans are a key wide receiver away
Oh
from
my
being a
gosh.
contender.
It happens in so many sports on so many teams. They turn around and the moment you trade somebody off of your roster, you're basically 5 steps behind where you want to be and asking for essentially that piece that you just got rid of. You've seen it so many times. So crazy. Again, it like you said, it's got to be a personnel decision issue or like an issue there because no GM in their right mind just completely depletes their organization and essentially just gifts another team like a top wide receiver just because, right? Like that's a joke.
You want to talk about a joke? How about the injuries that the 49ers have faced in the first 2 weeks of the season?
Now is
I mean,
Garoppolo back? They got the 0-2
no,
Giants this week
Garoppolo
too.
is out. Garoppolo
Okay.
is out this week. So they've got no Breida, no Garoppolo, no Bosa, no Thomas,
Oh
no
my goodness.
Kittle. And I mean, the team that was in the Super Bowl, the team that was that that everyone, the vaunted team that everyone was saying, look out for these 49ers, they're not there anymore. They're all the walking wounded. They're all wrapped up, taped up, and sitting on the sidelines and cheering for the second stringers. And it's a rough go for the 49ers, man. It really sucks, but they're not the only ones who have felt the bug. Your number one overall pick, Saquon Barkley, out to a torn ACL. A lot of players out to torn ACLs last week. It was actually a crazy week for knees. So, yeah, the 49ers in tough. And going up against the 0-2 Giants, the only saving grace there is that the Giants really have nothing going for them. So you could see that the 49ers coming up with this win. But, without a couple of these guys coming back, without Kittle, without at least Kittle and Garoppolo coming back, then and Mostert, sorry, not Breida. Breida plays for a different team, as I realized my mistake. Without those three key guys coming back, because Bosa and Thomas cannot come back or torn ACLs, I don't see the 49ers really being able to contend to the level that they were last year.
Yeah, week 2, buddy, absolutely decimated my team. Like I've got Mostert, I've got Garoppolo, I've got Barkley, like you name it, man. All these guys are on these injured lists. I'm like, oh man, thank God I got Russ Wilson. Otherwise, I might as well not play. It's the only thing actually keeping me afloat at this point.
I literally dodged every single injury. In one of my leagues, I have Kittle, but that's it.
Oh,
So
sorry. Did I mention that one or no?
no,
Did I
you
mention
didn't
that
mention
one yet?
Kittle.
Okay,
No.
that was part of the reason why I was making the point. Because yeah, Kittle's another one I have. Like, are you kidding? I think there might even be one more. It's nuts. But I did end up grabbing that Davis guy, so I got a hold of him. We're
Yeah,
gonna
so did
plug him
I.
in.
Good grab.
Yeah, plug that guy in, obviously, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it replaces a little bit of the issue, a little bit of the. I'm fading here. Holy fuck, 2-hour pod. Hopefully, it replaces some of that lacking offense there. Quick matchup, couple more I want to get into. The only other ones that are really important to me. Again, Chiefs Ravens Monday night is the one we all kind of talk about because it's Lamar, it's Mahomes. So it's basically the arm versus the leg. who can get more yards? And I don't know. I mean, since Patrick Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl, it's one of those things. I'd love to be a bigger fan of a guy, but like I got more room in my heart for a guy like Lamar because it's like his time to prove it now, right? Like it's not like Mahomes doesn't have a ton more ceiling and more things to prove, but like I don't know. I'm kind of more focused on somebody else for now. We'll save it. So I guess my bias shows a bit there, but I'm fading Chiefs. I'll take Ravens this time around only because, again, like both teams are 2-0. Like the records speak for themselves. It's literally a coin flip. And and it's time the Ravens show they're not frauds. Last year they kind of had a good record and then fizzled out. Was it the New England Patriots that were their demise?
No, the Patriots lost in week 1 to the Titans last year.
No, in playoffs. In playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs, the Patriots lost to the
Right.
Titans. So I
Oh, that's right. Derrick Henry was their
yeah,
demise.
Derrick Henry just, and I believe it was the Titans who beat the Ravens. So
Okay. I knew the Ravens were kind of proven to be frauds, although they were like there was a lot of people high on them, especially with the Lamar season. In the end, they kind of got exposed in the playoffs. So I'm thinking this year they've maybe hopefully fixed some of their issue, and I just want to see them prove it.
you want to talk about exposed? Can we talk about the Chiefs last week's game against the Chargers? Where did Patrick Mahomes go for a majority of that game? And if that happens this
Is that
week
the
in the
one went to
Monday
OT?
Nighter, that's the one that went to OT, and Harrison Butker kicked 3 straight 50-plus yard field goals. The first 2, one was a penalty flag, one was a timeout. So the third one counted, but 3 straight 50-plus yard field goals. The guy's a kicking machine. He doesn't have a leg. He's just got a pneumatic rod that just and just kicks the ball. Yeah, the Chiefs really disappeared for me through a lot of that game against the Chargers, a team that can we just say, or actually, hold on. We have to bring up the Dr. Nick moment of Tyrod Taylor before we talk about how the Chargers held their own.
How did I not put
against,
that in the notes? Yeah, I can't believe that's not even in the notes.
So Herbert gets his big break against the Kansas City Chiefs because the doctor decided to go all stabby stab on Tyrod Taylor's lungs with a pain-killing shot and punctures the poor dude's lungs. Like, no one wants to go to that doctor now, right?
Is it Toradol?
Yeah, it was Toradol. It reminds me of a good joke. What do you call the guy who finished last place in med school? Doctor.
Ooh, interesting. That's interesting. I know a few people that would probably take offense to that, so you might have just made a few enemies there.
But that's the point, right? It's just like, how did this guy do this? And there's no way anybody on that team wants to go to that doctor now, right? You have to get a new doctor. They've lost complete confidence. You just took their starting quarterback out. And if Tyrod Taylor loses his job to this guy, wow. If he loses his job because of a needle to the lungs from the doctor and Herbert ends up taking over, man, he's just going to be salty forever.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you almost wish it doesn't get out to the media because, like, you're just hoping to sweep it under the rug. Like, now we're talking, I think Noodles said it on Overdrive, like, there's going to be layers to this story. We haven't heard everything we need to hear at this point. Like, it's going to go on for a while because you don't know what kind of NFLPA lawsuits are going to get filed or
if Tyrod loses his job, there's going to be a lawsuit filed.
And then, like, the conversation gets brought up, well, do you just, like, kind of arbitrarily give him his job back because you owe it to him? Like, because if a guy's performing, like, the rules of sports are, like, you play a guy that's performing, but then again, like, then how come, I don't know, like, again, those kind of rules, just like in life, there's a double standard at all times. So at this point, Tyrod Taylor isn't a good enough quarterback like a Tom Brady or somebody who's like demanding a starting role. There is a little bit of ethics involved, and it's confusing. Again, you just kind of wish that story doesn't get out to the media or to the general public, because now we all know what's going on, and it makes it more of a story. Like, it makes it something that it doesn't have to be. This can't be the first time that's happened, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It cannot be the first time a doctor has gone to perform a, like, preps, some sort of prep just for a guy to, play a game and then have him, be on the shelf from an injury. It can't be the first time it's happened. It's the first time I'm aware of it, but man, oh man, I don't know what else to say on that one, because you almost have to wait for the rest of the story to unfold. And like you said, if he loses his job, it's a whole can of worms. Like, I don't even know.
A bunch of limping Chargers around the locker room because no one wants to let the doctor give him a needle now, because
they're all on the essential oil bandwagon here.
Yeah, they're all just smoking joints and whatnot because they don't want no needles from the doctor because he's going to
Exactly.
hurt them. Yeah, I brought up the Chargers for a good reason. I think that if the Chiefs play the same game they played against the Chargers, that the Ravens are going to just dummy them. They're going to run all over them
Right.
and dominate them with the Ingram and Jackson combination, Hollywood Brown, etc. I just think that the Ravens don't have too many bad games, and we saw a bad game from the Chiefs against a bad team, if we're being honest. Does Herbert make the Chargers a little bit better? Sure, he does, but it's a bad team, and it's a team that shouldn't be beating the reigning or shouldn't be taking the reigning Lombardi champions to overtime in a 23-20 game. It should have been dominated by the Chiefs, and it just wasn't, and Patrick Mahomes completely disappeared. So if he disappears on Monday night, it's going to be a tough night for him and a loss to the Ravens. So first things first, I got to talk about Drew Brees. I mean, you throw a little bit of sand in
Oh
Drew
yeah.
Brees' eyes, and I got to go there, and I either got to throw some more in or I got to defend him, right? So looking back at what Drew Brees has been able to do, he's faced the Buccaneers, he's faced the Raiders, and he's 1-1. But the question marks do remain as to his age, and he actually was very much contemplating retirement. He had a broadcaster's deal set there, and funny enough, the Saints were spying Tom Brady to replace Drew Brees, possibly if Brees had walked away. Michael Thomas masks a lot of the issues for Drew Brees.
Yeah, having such a good receiver. Yeah.
He's able to make so many plays. Guys double cover Michael Thomas, and that'll leave another receiver open. That'll leave a slot pass open. That'll leave a 15 or 5 or 3-yard pass open, or a rush lane open for Kamara, right? And now without your number one receiver, without a guy like Michael Thomas, then Emmanuel Sanders doesn't even matter. He's completely nullified. They know they just have to focus on Kamara, and that's just not enough. Drew Brees is on the back half of his career, but the loss of Michael Thomas has exasperated it exponentially. 2 huge E words, by the way. I think that the longer that Thomas is out, the more this is going to be apparent that Drew Brees' career is over. I think this is probably the last year you're going to see Brees. Oh, I love what the Packers are doing. I really do. I think that Aaron Rodgers is where Drew Brees was 3-4 years ago. Right, Aaron Rodgers is on that last push, and he's finally clicking with his coach. Now, this one is going to be tricky because Devontae Adams is questionable and Michael Thomas is out. Right, so it's going to be a battle of the running backs. I think that Aaron Rodgers can make more of his receiving core than Drew Brees can make of his, and I'm riding the Packers. I think the Packers are
Yeah.
sneaky a contender this year for the Lombardi if they can keep
Who
up
for
the
the
way they're playing.
Lombardi? Okay. You think they could go all the way and win it?
Sneaky. If Aaron Rodgers keeps this up, stays healthy, no collarbone issues, no nothing,
Right. They look good in that
keep an eye on
division.
the Packers.
They always own that division, or at least come close to it, right? Like they don't have. It's not like they're vying against 3 unreal teams in their division. They're usually set and happy. But I'm looking Packers too, only because again, like you mentioned, with Breeze and just the lack of his weapons. I mean, you can't really expect Kamara to do it all. So without Teddy Bridgewater to come in and make some good throws because they've lost him, I really am not sure what they do. Is Taysom Hill a quarterback?
Yes, he is a quarterback, but he
Okay,
lines up as a wide receiver and a
right.
running back.
You can
And
see where my concern comes from because I'm not even sure what they got in the pipeline. Their quarterback or backup QB is kind of a receiver or whatever.
I think Taysom Hill was polished up when they had Teddy Bridgewater because they were able to run a 3-quarterback scheme and mask what Taysom Hill was going to do. But now every time Taysom Hill comes in, you know he's going to run the ball or he's going to hand it off.
I hear you there. I want your expert take on one more series. Everything else, I mean, you got fans of teams that might be offended, but everything else for now, a little arbitrary. It's only 2 weeks in, and we got time. We got to get out of here eventually. You got to go to work. It's the Rams and the Bills, man. Both of those teams are 2-0. The Bills have been like they've been on a high trajectory for the last couple of seasons, and now that Brady's gone, you got all these guys talking. Okay, they're coming out of that division on top. So far, they've looked good. They're 2-0. Josh Allen has been probably the best looking piece on that team so far, but now he's got Stephon Diggs to throw to. It's just looking like a good team. I've got their defense if you want to go back to my fantasy. But now you're going over to the Rams. They got Jalen Ramsey to add to Aaron Donald this year? Their defense is stupid. Like, they're actually a dumb defense, and they're 2-0 probably just because of that. I don't think their quarterback's that good in Jared Goff.
They have
Oh my God,
a draft number
what's his
one
name?
draft pick. I can't remember his name.
I just read a friggin' article on him. Anyway, that's what time of the podcast it is. But my question to you, John, which of these teams is taking their first loss of the season? What team
Cam
do you not like on
Akers.
paper?
If
Cam
you want
Akers,
to,
thank you.
if you want to
Akers,
start
thank
that
you.
again, we'll
No,
run that back.
forget it. Cam Akers, thank you for helping me out here.
The Rams actually surprised me this year. Everyone was poo-pooing them, and I was along with them all. I figured that the New England Patriots exposed the Rams for the frauds that they were in the Super Bowl, and they weren't able to get back to whatever dominant offense and defense that got them to the Super Bowl in the first place. But this Rams team has been a little bit different. Cooper Kupp has been good. Cam Akers has been good, much better in replacement of Todd Gurley, and Jared Goff has actually looked pretty serviceable. And it's interesting because the guys on Overdrive, they had a little bit of a bet at the end of the season, who's going to be the better quarterback, Baker Mayfield or Jared Goff. And before week 1, I would have taken Baker, but now after week 2, leading into week 3, I'm thinking Jared Goff's going to win that one in a landslide. So Goff looking very impressive. And on the other side of the ball, you've got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary.
Yeah, Singletary's huge.
That Bills defense that's normally pretty good, but could not stop Miami last week. A little bit of a question mark there for me. I think that this is the spread, I believe, is Bills by 2, minus 2 points. So it's a close game.
Yeah,
It's really a pick 'em when you think about it. So you got to go with let your little inherent bias leak in, I guess, to who you feel is going to have a more dynamic game. And I'm going to go with the Bills. I think Josh Allen, his ability to rush the ball in the way that actually his comparison is Cam Newton, believe it or not. To rush
he is
the ball,
big and can move. Yeah,
he rushes the ball in the same way Cam Newton rushes
6'5".
it, and he gets 400 plus yards through the air. Like, this guy is almost unstoppable. Aaron Donald's going to have to get a lot of pressure on him. Jalen Ramsey's going to be busy all day with Stephon Diggs. So it's going to be interesting to see if Brown can get some touches. It's going to be interesting to see if Singletary can get some rushes in. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to rabbit the Bills on this one. I actually made a little bit of a ticket with the Bills. Before we get out of here, I wanted to give our viewers a little peek at the Sunday ticket. And for me, what I have here is the Pittsburgh Steelers by 4, the Patriots by 5.5, and the Buffalo Bills by 2.5. So
you are taking the Bills, yeah.
Taking the Bills, the Patriots, and the Steelers to cover the spread.
I'll take the Rams on that one only because I appreciate those picks, man. Honestly, the only reason I'm going to take Rams is to be the contrarian, and because when it's a conversation in any sport, defense over offense in a pick 'em, I'm going to have to take the defense. And although the Bills have decent defense, like you just mentioned, it hasn't come close to good this year, especially when you let that many up from Miami. So when it comes down to the Rams and their actual defensive acumen, Josh Allen might be looking good, but for some reason I'm taking defense over offense this week. That's my only justification, because I hear you. If I was psycho, I'd take the Bills just because.
Bills are the fun pick in the GTA. I guess a lot of GTA people fans of the Bills, and it's a little bit of a burr in my side. My dad's a big Bills fan, so I like to see them do well, but not well enough to beat the Patriots.
Just one of those things. Like, again, I've grown up hating them because I'm supposed to like them. It's kind of like not quite Leaf fandom, where like I'm really passionate and like I identify by it. But it's like I've grown up, like every year it's like, yeah, there's always some Sunday Bills game on, and I'm like, really? Like, they suck. Like, is this what I'm really supposed to watch? Could you not have been like a fan of like the Patriots, et cetera, et cetera? And there's something just kind of a bit of who I am, I guess. It's like something about a tradition where like I almost need to be told what sport or what team I'm a fan of. I can't. It's hard for me to go out of my way and find one. Teams like Vegas and that, they're inspiring to me. The Golden Knights, not the Raiders, not yet. But in the end, it's like you almost have to be told, okay, this is the team we cheer for, and that's how you go through those hardships, right? So I don't know, man. The Bills are a tough one to really swallow. I understand their history and everything, but all right, 2:59. You gotta go, man. I'm sorry we took so long.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. I enjoyed every second of it.
Oh, of course you did. Of course you did. All right, buddy. Enjoy the games tonight. There's a few of them, and we'll talk again soon. We'll wrap up some NFL week 3 stuff when we talk again.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you. Have a good day.
As always, peace out, man. Enjoy your day at work. See ya.